The Italian Walk. The true story of an unconventional hike from the heel of the boot to the top of Italy by Mike Warren. Copyright 2020. Narrated by Mike Warren. All opening chapter songs by Mike Warren with Malduce and The Goddamned Sons of a Witch. Page 7, Chapter 1, OCD. Those suffering from obsessive-compulsive disorder tend to be completely aware of their own madness, and their suffering comes from not only being unable to make sense of it all, but also the shame and knowledge that their fears are not founded in the same reality that non-sufferers seem to live. No single idea has occupied more energy or thought over my life than the walk. It simply had to happen. Hundreds, maybe thousands of miles. Where? When? The trouble with obsession is the total lack of coherent significance. In my search for reason, I staggered through years of near-complete neurosis. With OCD, the individual has no control as to what might pop into his or her mind that must then be dealt with, or else suffer some unknown terrible consequence. I have personally suffered from the fear of germs, the fear of how to begin cleaning a messy space, fear that if I didn't tap my teeth to the right rhythm in a determined period of time, that something terrible would happen. Fear that if I didn't avoid every crack in the sidewalk, that some bad omen would come to pass. But there was always a magic thing that I could do that would ward off the horrible thing that was coming my way. Then, one day, the idea to walk a long distance popped into my head. And then, soon after, the fear emerged. For all I know, we are all secretly mad. All I can say is that I'm eternally grateful for my fixations. Grateful that I didn't need to climb Mount Everest or stalk and eat innocent strangers. There are, after all, many things worse than obsessing about a walkabout. But, like I said, those suffering from OCD already know that their fears are irrational. Only by facing them can one be free. Page 9, Chapter 2, Ray. I had already lived at least 5 years of heavy obsessing about the walk when, in December of 1999, I went out to a bar called Makeout Room in San Francisco with some friends. No sooner had the drinks arrived when I felt a tap on my left shoulder from a guy who looked homeless. He seemed to be in his late 30s. On his table was a glass of whiskey and a cigarette propped up on a lighter. "Why don't you just go for the walk, man?" he said to me. "You're gonna love it." I hadn't said a word to him before he began talking to me about the walk. It was uncanny how he referred to very private specifics about my obsession in order to encourage me. Stuff that I had never mentioned before to anyone, ever. "Hey, man, you know you want to feel the raw earth between your toes? You should just do it. Don't you want to see those far-off horizons and walk through them, and then look back on them from the other side? Memorize the horizons as they slowly change until you have a map in your head of the places you've been? Don't be afraid of the why or the where. It's only natural." Ray totally and completely read my mind and my obsession like I was an open book, and this sent me into a haunting out-of-body experience that I wrestled with for years since that supernatural night. How was it possible that a total stranger could see so deeply into my thoughts and mind? And if Ray could do it, then who else was capable of doing the same thing? How many people are reading my mind any given day? Having a metaphysical experience like that was like seeing a ghost, or talking with the dead, or being contacted by an alien. You just can't believe certain things unless they happen to you. Who was that guy? What was that guy? I kept asking myself as soon as he left. Later that night, neck deep in California grass, I thought, what if Ray is the angel of death? And what if he's trying to lead me toward my untimely doom? That thought alone freaked me out for years to come. I would obsess with joints and music and songwriting as a way of distracting myself from any possible action that would lead me to follow the Grim Reaper down his road of guaranteed death. Truth was, Ray never once said anything about my death that night. He only read my mind's most personal thoughts, and they were all positive things. But when you are scared and paranoid and everyone you love is telling you not to go for the walk, you might think, yeah, right. If he was leading me into a trap like only the angel of death would, then of course he would paint the picture really pretty and inviting. Like I said before, I was willing and determined to go on the walk, but I had no concrete reason behind doing it. I felt a calling. I had to, only I had no direction nor reason, nor explanation to give my family or friends who loved me very much. Perfectly well-meaning people who loved me told me that if I ever tried to go for a long, long walk, that I would surely die. I wasn't prepared. I would never make it alive. I was throwing away my life like Chris McCandless went into the wild. Yet, a whiskey-drinking homeless man that I had never met in my life was pushing me forward toward my fate. It's one thing to romanticize about what it would be like to walk miles and miles with your dog, and it's another thing altogether to feel obligated to do it by some unexplained universal tug at your soul. Needless to say, the obsession continued. No amounts of songwriting or marijuana could stop it. In those days, I had only one thing on my mind: the walk.